Welcome back to the Trevor Theismann Show. Today is going to be the Overspeed Accelerator walkthrough. Now, Overspeed Accelerator is a great training program I made years ago, and it is all about overspeed techniques. You're going to be utilizing the Reactive stretch cord, which is a great acceleration device. It has a 360 D-ring that goes around the belt and a cord with an anchor that can accelerate that athlete forward. Overspeed training is an amazing technique that can help with stride frequency if done properly, and I'm going to walk through each of the phases throughout this workout program that you need to be doing correctly and some things that you need to be watching for. Before I begin, I need to talk about two concepts. We've got two things we need to be aware of the entire time we train. Whenever you're doing overspeed training, you cannot cause your athlete to overstride. The anchor is a very important player in this type of training modality. If the anchor pulls too much, if they offer too much resistance, and it breaks down the athlete's form, causing them to overstride, that is going to be an issue. We need proper form throughout the entire training sequence. So if you see long strides, you're losing the frequency. That means you're giving too much assistance. It's not that the athlete is running with longer legs. It's that you're pulling them too far. It slides their hips and their lower back slightly forward in front of their balance point. Less resistance is required if you are causing overstriding. The other issue is, once again, the anchor's fault. If you are pulling your athlete too hard, you can cause what's called braking. And braking is just the athlete's balance point once again being shifting. So take a broad jump, for instance. If you accelerate an athlete forward with too much resistance on a broad jump, you will cause the athlete to land on their heel rather than the middle or ball of their foot to move into the next broad jump. So be very conscious of these two concepts. Are we causing them to overstride when they're running, or are we causing them to really land on their heel and get into a braking element that's going to defeat the whole purpose of building stride frequency? Now, who can be doing the Overspeed Accelerator? Oftentimes, I recommend to parents that they are not trying to utilize this method on youth, super young athletes. Most of the time, step one for a youth athlete should be hip flexor training. Utilize Kbands, Speed 101, some of those other types of techniques that I've suggested to build hip flexors and glute core strength rather than utilizing this type of an advanced training technique. What you'll find with little kids is they cannot stop from overstriding. The balance point at which they use to drive whenever you give them assistance collapses nearly instantly. So unless you have an advanced young individual that you have tested this on and you can see that they can truly maintain their level of balance and core stability, then you can try this technique. But a lot of times you're talking about preteens, if not teenagers, is about as early as this gets. This is a little bit more of an advanced level training technique. Now, let's get into the first exercise. So linear acceleration. We've got three different styles here. You're going to use 3 cones, right? Anytime you put that belt on, you want to put the D-ring right in the middle so that it can completely circle your body. That'll allow for the change of directions and anything else that you'll be moving into. Now, the 3 cones is going to be slightly designed for the level of athlete. If you're going to be utilizing more resistance and you have an athletic anchor that can move with them, we can extend this out a little bit. But if you're working with smaller athletes or an anchor that's not quite as mobile, one workaround is just tighten up the cones a little bit. But generally speaking, we've got 2 modifications. One will be through back pedals going backwards, accelerating forward, and the other modification will be moving into resistance and then backpedaling back. Now, the one thing that I have to point out is the reactive stretch cord is not designed to be an anchor. And why I say that, or what I mean by that, sorry to interrupt, but I just wanted to show my appreciation. Every time you like, subscribe, or even comment on a video, it definitely supports my work, and I just wanted to say thank you. Let's get back to the show. It seems very, you see on social media all the time, tons and tons of trainers showing you where they're anchoring the athlete and letting them run into resistance, and they're really just crushing it, moving as hard as they can, and it looks like a great exercise. This is a little bit more of an exercise for endurance and power. The reactive stretch cord is not designed to anchor athletes. Now, in this drill, you'll see where you're running through resistance. That's great. That's fine. We can move through resistance. We can add a little bit of resistance. But its key quality is that it's the proper amount of resistance to add about 10 to 15% of what an athlete could handle in a pulling you to them technique. That's the overspeed side of stuff. It's not an anchor tool. If we loaded this thing up with enough resistance bands like the victory ropes, I've got an item for you. It's the victory ropes. You'll never break it. It's strong as can be. If you do break it, give me a call. We'll give you a new one. No problem. But that is designed to anchor athletes. It has 4 resistance bands inside the safety sleeve. It is a bear to move. The reactive stretch cord, on the other hand, is designed to accelerate. It's designed to be the proper amount of resistance that you have enough of a window to hit that athlete with just enough resistance to help them with stride frequency, but not too much to cause braking, like we discussed before, or overstriding, like we discussed before. So when you see the linear acceleration where we're running into resistance, remember, it's not max out the cord and drag the anchor. Watch as I move in the video. I'm active. I'm not maxing out the cord because that's not what I'm looking to do. It's the acceleration element. It's the stride frequency element. You're trying to assist that athlete just enough to where their feet turn over faster with exact, proper, precise form. Do we have the knees up? Are we working the arms properly? If you give them too much resistance, they're going to be braking or overstriding. So keep that in mind when you look at the different techniques. There's not one time in this video, Overspeed Accelerator, that you will see that I'm maxing out that cord and letting the athlete drag me. That is not the training method, and it will not help your stride frequency. So utilize those techniques in that linear acceleration. In the video, I talk a lot about reps and sets, so check it out there. But there's some key elements in the Overspeed Accelerator that can give you monumental differences in the training style if the anchor is doing things properly. And that's one of the biggest issues with this type of training method. Overspeed training requires a very competent and mobile coach or trainer or other athlete. You have to be very mobile to give the proper amount of resistance. As you can see in several of the exercises during that video, I'm moving almost as much as the athlete is. And the reason for that is because I'm doing my best to give that athlete absolutely consistent resistance so they can maintain their running form. If you let that athlete get that slingshot effect where they're getting to the max of the cord, get way out there, and they get tons of assistance on one way, that is going to defeat the purpose of the entire training method. You're trying to keep them and dance with them. Throughout the entire movement, you're trying to balance with them and maintain a consistent level of resistance that's being applied to them. So notice how much I'm moving throughout that workout. It requires, you'll be just sweating just as much as the athlete when you run this program. But I tell you, you're not going to find a better overspeed training hour workout than this Overspeed Accelerator. Now, the shuffle sprint exercise is going to be the second one. And this will be really starting to make the acceleration elements shine, because linear stuff I find to be very easy to train with overspeed training. But what's interesting about the reactive stretch cord that I've found to be extremely successful is the change in agility into the linear sprint out. If you can master that as a speed and agility coach, that is the essence of creating speed in youth athletes. So during this exercise, you're going to see the cones laid out, and what you'll do is you're giving them a little bit of resistance out, increasing muscle activation, and when they turn the corner, that's where the magic happens. You're really trying to prevent that slingshot effect. You're not trying to max them out and then yank them. It's more of a consistent resistance. As soon as they hit that end point, you're going to, it's not a delicate motion, but you're going to try to keep it very consistent as you pull them out. Don't slingshot them. Pull them out, and then you throw the cord so that they can get an additional sprint out. This specific exercise is kind of ground zero, a good fundamental movement that not only the anchor can practice his or her responsibilities, but the athlete will also begin to start feeling a little bit more of, oh, I can really get out and run with this thing. The third exercise is a great exercise, but the 40s can be problematic for younger kids. Sometimes 40s is a long way to run with proper form. So keep that in mind if you're training different age groups. You can probably get away with a 30 for anyone that's 12 and under. 40 yards is just a little long to try to run at your max speed for that age when you're trying to do complete speed and agility training. But overall, keep in mind that the Overspeed 40s, you want to have your same starts. If you were going to go do an NFL Combine test out, we want to always work those starts. But one of the elements that's required during your 40-yard dash is when you're using this type of modality, the coach can easily pull that person off their center of gravity. I mean, imagine you've got your butt in your air, or you've got your butt in the air, your hands are down, your weight's slightly forward or kind of trying to be centered, you know, but you're very loosey-goosey. If I add a ton of resistance, you'll fall on your head. So the key point to doing the 40-yard dash as an overspeed drill is the anchor has to apply the assistance at the proper time. So you need to get on the same page, use some kind of a cadence. You know, you say ready, set, go, whatever you decide. But when you go through that cadence, then the anchor will know as soon as it's takeoff time, I'm going to stretch that rope as fast as I can. And again, this is very active anchors. You have to apply that assistance, let them run up by you as you kind of pull the rope into your hands, and then you'll throw it off to the side. You do not want to slingshot them in the back. You know, we're not running out. Anchor holds the anchor, let them run until they hit the resistance again. Remember, you're trying to teach overspeed. You're trying to teach increased acceleration, increased stride frequency in that little window, and then you release it and let them run it out a little bit. That's the key. If you can maintain a consistent resistance level, let them sprint out. You're going to find that it's a much more effective drill when you're doing that. But the anchor is insanely important, and that's one of the biggest issues when it comes to overspeed training, is the idea that you can kind of loosey-goosey, I'll pull you, and then when you run over there, I don't want to let it go, you know, I'm just going to hold it, and it kind of yanks you at the end. A lot of those elements kind of defeat the whole purpose of what you're trying to do. You're trying to train not only muscle memory, but you're trying to get that athlete to maintain proper running form while they're working through that muscle memory. So let go of that cord and let it go. Another great drill is going to be the next one. It's the assisted broad jumps. If you aren't doing assisted broad jumps, it is a great tool to teach power and balance. Whenever you do a broad jump in resistance, you can also do that in the other way, probably more effectively with the Victory ropes because it's a stronger cord. But the broad jumps I like to do assisted style broad jumps because it really teaches the body to get balanced and explode again quickly. Anchors, if you push them too far, if you pull too much, you'll really see the braking element occur in the broad jump because the athletes will land heavy on their heels and they will not be able to transition into the next jump nearly at all because the pull was too great, the center of gravity got pushed forward, their hips kind of opened too far, and when they land, they're not in a power position to jump again. So what you'll find is just by adding a little bit of assistance, and then you can play with it from there. Let's start with a little bit. As they get going, maybe on that third one, I'll really be adding an awful lot of assistance. But keep in mind, 3 to 4 jumps is really all you need. As you move into the 5th and the 6th and the 7th, most of the time you're getting complete breakdown, whether it be from the anchor not being able to consistently keep up with the distance that's required to keep the assistance consistent, or it's the athlete just begins to get a little bit fatigued. Those are where you're going to find that in those later jumps. So keep it around 3 to 4 repetitions is plenty. Younger athletes, 3. Older athletes, go with the 4 and work on getting longer jumps rather than more repetitions. The broad jump should all be focused on explosiveness. That is the point of it. It's not being able to hop down a football field 100 yards. That's endurance. That's conditioning. You can do that as well, but it's not explosiveness. It's not speed training, right? Keep things insanely explosive, 110% intensity, and then move on to the next exercise. Now, I really like the resisted pyramids. The resisted pyramids is one where you're going to utilize 5 cones and you more or less make a pyramid. For more advanced athletes with a mobile anchor, you can kind of stretch these distances a little bit. Remember, the reactive stretch cord goes about 20 feet in its prime working condition. After you get into 22, 23 feet, 24 feet, you're going to start stretching it to where the fabric actually gets maxed out and will turn more into a rope. The reason why we did that is we want to protect everybody and make sure that there's not going to be some kind of break in resistance band with no protection. But you should never be maxing out this cord because it defeats the purpose of what you're trying to do. It's not an anchoring device. You're trying to add muscle activation running away, and then you're going to accelerate out. In this specific exercise, we're working a little bit of that resisted sprint work right in the middle of overspeed training, right? So you're going to run out to the cone as fast as you can, come back, run out to the cone as fast as you can, and we're overloading the back pedal. But the magic behind this specific drill that I really like to work on is how fast can you change direction. Imagine you're anchoring the athlete, they're running out towards that middle cone. If we're trying to really cover some ground, a lot of times I'm moving with the athlete. So when we get to there, I know that we're about to peak the cord out, so I start moving with them. I'm flowing with them. I'm going in and out because I don't want to max out the cord because I don't want a slingshot effect. It needs to be consistent. So when I get them all the way to that cone, they're at the farthest point. We're just inside the stretch of the band. Now I've got to ease them on so when they come back, it's not a slingshot and they fall down. Younger athletes you'll find in this pyramid drill, sometimes if you've overloaded the cord too much, they may even fall down. So we've got to really be careful with keeping that resistance consistent. So when you get up there and you get them to start backpedaling, the key thing that you'll find is you can really stress an athlete by the turnaround. So as soon as they plant the foot, make them focus on exploding forward and hit them with that bit of assistance. So you're assisting them to you. It's really easy to backpedal. And then boom, if you get really good at hitting them with resistance at the proper amount of time, now they're hitting that resistance point very quickly in that pyramid drill. And it's a fun one. Go from left to right and then left, do each side. You're going to start at the left, go all the way to the right, take a bit of a break. Then you'll start at the right, go to the left. But just like any type of speed training, everything should be done at max effort. If you're working with an athlete or if you're an athlete listening to this, if you want to improve your speed, it is essential that you train at 100% intensity. If you slack off, if you take reps off, that is the issue why you're not getting any results. Speed training is not a walk in the park. It is not how many reps you can do. It is none of those things. It is 110% intensity, training muscle memory, working on our fast twitch muscle fibers. You have to focus. You have to be explosive. So if you need a longer rest period during any of this training, take it. If you need to get a drink of water, go get one. Because if you're not willing to plug in and focus with optimal intensity, speed training is really a waste of time and it turns a little bit more into endurance. Now, I don't have anything against endurance training. I don't have anything against conditioning athletes. But if we're trying to improve speed, all those things matter. So keep that in mind when you're going through this style workout, or if you're utilizing Speed 101, which we discussed last week in that walkthrough video. It's essential that you are explosive as you can be. Now, the W drill is the last drill in this sequence that is a lot of fun. You want to set up two staggered lines that can mimic a W moving down. If you stand off to the side, you'll see what I mean. It looks a little bit like a W. But it's by far most athletes' favorite drill, but it is a lot of work for the anchors. But it is important that they also are doing their job properly. You'll shuffle away, you'll sprint forward. You'll shuffle away, you'll sprint forward. You'll shuffle away all the way down through these cones. Now, the reason why it's difficult for the anchor is because you have to be very active giving them a resistance away and then being at that proper moment to accelerate them forward. Now, we've got breaking down, speeding up, breaking down, speeding up, breaking. And when you're doing this repetitive process, you'll see that there's probably not many drills that mimic a game-like movement as much as this drill does. Whether it be soccer, stopping and going, whether it be football, trying to dance through the line, whether it be baseball, moving quickly to a ground ball. Most any sport that's not linear, this drill is great to teach you how to break down and maintain a center of balance. The more balanced you are, the faster you can accelerate from any given point. So take this for example. If you have a weak core and you find that you'll see some athletes, and more normally at the time, it's really easy to see this in youth athletes or someone very new to change of direction training. What they do is they get high on their toe on the turn of direction. They hit that, all their weight kind of shifts a little bit too far, and then they're not in a great position to move. Well, as you can see in the W drill, we're challenging not only the ability to move quickly, changing directions, but we're also adding in the other element, running through resistance, pulling your core back. What does that make you do? It makes you tighten up. You've got to really maintain that level of strength and balance moving away. And now when I'm coming back, I'm being pulled forward. I'm getting more assistance. So what does that train? It makes you maintain that low center of gravity in these small movements. That's imperative. And as the athlete is pulled forward, they also have to break down with that overload. Wouldn't it be great if a basketball player going up for a layup and gets pushed in the back still is under control to finish? Wouldn't it be essential for a football player or running back running through the line and gets bumped from behind and still able to make the next agility move to get around the linebacker? Absolutely. This type of training in this way is more or less changing the athlete's ability to change direction under a load, under distress. So it's a very cool drill. I enjoy using the W drill anytime you're working with that mid-level, advanced level athlete. You can really overload them. But anchors, it's very important that you are moving through the entire way. And at the end, you'll notice in that video, we do a sprint out. Anytime that you're utilizing an overspeed training device like the reactive stretch cord, it's imperative that you allow athletes to sprint out. We don't only want to run the sprint with the acceleration. We want to develop the speed as it moves through. The reactive stretch cord, utilizing overspeed techniques, is a great way to train your ability to move through the dig phase. If you can dig through and move through that phase more rapidly and get into your longer strides, that's the key. So run those sprints out and make sure that we're not stopping immediately when the cord is done. You want to run all the way out, whether it be 20s, whether it be 30s. If you've got room for more, give it a little bit more. But it has to be at that 110% intensity level. That is going to be the key to everything. Now, on a side note, the Overspeed Accelerator is a great training program, and there's also 3 or 4 other programs that I wrote up, and you can access all those at kbandstraining.com/download. Click the reactive stretch cord link, and it'll jump you down the page to the other training programs that come with the reactive stretch cord. You have access to all those. I'll do more walkthrough videos over time if you guys like seeing these. That'll go through those specifically as well. But one of the things that I always see with the reactive stretch cord is oftentimes people are hooking it to a wall. Now, I don't really have a problem with hooking it to the wall, but be sure you understand what you're doing. This is going to turn a little bit more into a balance builder, an endurance builder, a conditioning drill. You're not truly training overspeed just because you have a band wrapped around your waist, okay? So keep that in mind. And if you're going to attach something to the wall, a lot of times I'm seeing people run into resistance. Remember, this tool is not built for that. If you want resistance, the victory ropes that I designed, you're not going to find a better product. It's strong enough to do what you want. If you want more distance, double up the cords. You can get up to 40 feet. Okay, so it's a much better tool for this resistance style training. But you will find a no better tool for overspeed training than the reactive stretch cord. Remember, there's 2 cords inside there, inside that safety sleeve, not just 1. I used 2 because I want it to be more durable, and I found that when we got to 3, all of a sudden, each of the athletes we were working with, overstriding and braking became more and more of an issue. I liked 2 because I could maintain that consistent resistance as we were doing these type of drills. So this thing has been tested and works well, but don't just hook it to a wall and expect to call it overspeed training. And I realize that the limitations are that it does require an anchor. It does require a mobile partner. But if you want to overspeed, that is the modality. That is how it works. That is what you need to be doing. Overall, please let me know if you have any questions about the overspeed training Overspeed Accelerator, I'll be sure to answer them. I think it's one of the best programs or hour-long workouts that you should be doing at least once or twice a week. You can add this in with your Speed 101 training program or even in the performance series. You can mix and match this thing on, say, a Wednesday while you're doing the other things Mondays and Fridays. Mix up your training techniques. Remember, you've got hip flexor and glute style training. We've got overspeed training techniques, and then we've got the whole resisted power element moving forward linearly. There's a lot of ways that you can improve your speed and agility, and this is one tool in your bag. Thanks a lot for listening to the show today. I'd really appreciate if you'd like the video if you found value in it, and subscribe to the channel, clicking that notification bell so you also receive notifications for future videos that could help you out as well. If you have any questions about the content, leave a comment below and I'll be sure to interact with you as quickly as possible there. I've created a website called kbandstraining.com in 2010. We've been around for a long time with high quality resistance bands and durable equipment. I also have provided nearly 1,100 drills and videos for fitness training and athlete performance for youth athletes. So support my work. If you enjoy the content and you'd like me to continue doing what I'm doing, I would love the support. Thanks a lot for listening.